January 29th, 1945. 2:47 p.m. Holtzheim, Belgium. First Sergeant Leonard Funk walks around the corner of a farmhouse and stops cold. 90 German soldiers are staring straight at him. Half of them already have rifles in their hands. The rest are grabbing weapons from a pile on the ground. 4 American soldiers kneel in the snow, hands behind their heads. These Germans were prisoners 20 minutes ago, captured during the assault on this village, guarded by just 4 men. All Funk could spare. Now they're free, armed, and organizing an ambush that will wipe out his company from behind. A German officer steps forward. He jams an MP-40 into Funk's stomach and screams something in German. Funk doesn't understand a word. The officer screams again, louder, his face turning red. Funk looks at the Germans, looks at his men on their knees, feels the gun pressed into his gut, and then Leonard Funk starts laughing. The officer freezes, confused. Then, furious, he screams louder. Funk laughs harder. What happens next takes less than 1 minute. 21 Germans will die, the rest will surrender, and Leonard Funk will earn the Medal of Honor for one of the most unhinged acts of close-quarters combat in World War II. Leonard Alfred Funk, Jr. was born in 1916 in a steel town outside Pittsburgh. He grows up fast. The Great Depression doesn't allow for anything else. By the time he's out of high school, he's already carrying responsibility most men never ask for. In 1941, America expands the draft. Funk is 24 years old, 5'5", 140 pounds. The Army examiner probably sees clerk material. They're wrong. Funk volunteers for the paratroopers. In 1941, jumping out of airplanes into enemy territory sounds like suicide. Only a certain kind of man volunteers. Training is designed to break you. Half don't make it. Funk does. By 1944, he's with the 82nd Airborne, a unit already soaked in combat, already buried friends. By D-Day, Funk is leading men. June 6, 1944. Normandy. Anti-aircraft fire shreds the night sky. Planes fly too low. Men jump anyway. Funk lands hard. His ankle is badly injured. He ignores it. For 10 days, he leads 18 lost paratroopers 40 miles through German-held France. No casualties. Not one. That earns him the Silver Star. It won't be his last. September 1944. Holland. Operation Market Garden. Funk spots German anti-aircraft guns firing on incoming gliders, 20 Germans, prepared positions. He has 3 men. He attacks anyway. They silence all 3 guns. The gliders land. That earns him the Distinguished Service Cross. Most men would be done. Leonard Funk isn't. December 1944, the Battle of the Bulge. The cold kills as efficiently as bullets. Then comes Malmedy. 84 American prisoners executed in a field. When Funk hears about it, something inside him hardens. He makes a decision. He will never surrender. Which brings us back to Holtzheim. January 29th, 1945. Funk's company captures the village, 80 German prisoners. But there aren't enough men to guard them, only 4. A German patrol slips in, overwhelms the guards, frees the prisoners. 90 armed Germans now stand behind American lines. They're setting up an ambush. And then Leonard Funk walks around the corner. The German officer shoves the MP-40 into his stomach, screams. Funk doesn't understand, so he laughs. The officer loses control, and in that moment, Leonard Funk moves. Still laughing, he reaches for his Thompson. slowly. The officer thinks he's surrendering. He isn't. In one motion, Funk swings the weapon down and opens fire. The officer is dead before he hits the snow. Funk keeps firing. 30 rounds. Reload. Fire again. He's yelling now. Pick up their weapons! The Americans grab rifles from the fallen Germans. Chaos. The Germans weren't ready for this. Their officer is dead. The laughing American is killing them. 45 seconds. That's all it takes. 21 Germans dead. 24 wounded. The rest surrender. Leonard Funk stands in the snow, smoke rising from his Thompson. He looks at his men and says, "That was the stupidest thing I've ever seen." After the war, Funk doesn't chase fame. He goes home, gets a desk job helping veterans for 27 years. He never talks about Holtzheim. In 1945, President Truman places the Medal of Honor around his neck and says, "I'd rather have this medal than be President of the United States." Leonard Funk dies in 1992. He's buried at Arlington. Most people have never heard his name. But his story proves something. War doesn't reward the biggest or the strongest. It rewards the man who keeps thinking when everyone else freezes. A gun in his stomach, 90 enemies in front of him. Leonard Funk laughed and survived. But to understand why Leonard Funk didn't hesitate, why surrender never even crossed his mind, you have to rewind just a little. Because Holtzheim was not an isolated moment. It was the final link in a long chain of violence, loss, and decisions made long before that German officer ever raised his voice. By January 1945, Funk was no longer just a paratrooper. He was a survivor of 3 campaigns: Normandy, Holland, the Ardennes. Each one had stripped away illusions. In Normandy, he learned what chaos really meant. Men scattered across flooded fields, paratroopers drowning under the weight of their own gear, others cut down before their boots ever touched the ground. Funk learned then that survival wasn't about bravery. It was about clarity, making decisions when everyone else was overwhelmed. In Holland, he learned something else. Speed matters. Hesitation kills. 3 German anti-aircraft guns were tearing Allied gliders out of the sky. Reinforcements, medics, supplies. Doctrine said, wait. Doctrine said, gather more men. Funk didn't. He attacked with 3 soldiers and wiped out a fortified position meant for 20. That wasn't recklessness. That was pattern recognition. He saw the outcome before it happened. And then came the Ardennes. Winter turned the forest into a graveyard. Weapons froze. Men froze. Entire units collapsed under pressure they were never meant to carry. And then, Malmedy. 84 Americans executed after surrendering. Shot. Left in the snow. That massacre rewired the battlefield. After Malmedy, surrender stopped being a guarantee. It became a gamble. When Funk heard the details, he didn't shout. He didn't rant. He just made a quiet decision. He would never place his life or his men's lives in the hands of an enemy who had already proven they couldn't be trusted. That decision followed him to Holtzheim. So when the German officer screamed at him, weapon pressed into his stomach, Funk wasn't frozen by fear. He was already past that stage. The laughter wasn't insanity. It was release. The moment when fear has nowhere left to go. Because Funk understood something the officer didn't. The Germans believed they were in control. But control on a battlefield is fragile. It only exists until someone breaks the script. By laughing, Funk shattered expectations. No pleading, no fear, no compliance, just confusion. And confusion is deadly. Those few seconds of hesitation, that single pause, was all Funk needed. Everything after that was training. Thousands of repetitions, reload drills, weapon handling, muscle memory forged under exhaustion and stress. When the Thompson came down, the fight was already decided. The Germans reacted as individuals. Funk acted as a system. That's why it was over in under a minute. Later, when officers asked him why he did it, Funk didn't talk about courage. He didn't talk about heroism. He said he did what made sense. And that might be the most unsettling part of the story. Because when you strip away the medals, the citations, the ceremony, Leonard Funk wasn't trying to be a hero. He was trying to prevent the next Malmedy. After the war, Funk never chased recognition. No books, no speeches, no political career. He went back to paperwork, helping other veterans navigate a system that barely understood them. The same quiet competence, the same refusal to dramatize. When people asked about Holtzheim, about the laughter, about the bodies in the snow, he waved it off. Did what I had to do. That's it. Leonard Funk died in 1992. Most people will never know his name, but his story survives for one reason. It exposes the truth about combat. Not that heroes are fearless, but that sometimes when there is no good option left, the man who survives is the one willing to act while everyone else is still deciding. At Holtzheim, Leonard Funk laughed, and in doing so, he rewrote the outcome of a moment that should have killed him.